welcome to Who Corner to Corner podcast. My name's Jeff, as I'm sure you know by now, and over there is my co-host and my good friend Paul. How are you today?
Yes, hello Jeff, I'm very well, thank you. Yes, I'm enjoying a sudden, unseasonable bout of sunshine, which is very nice. I've got my short sleeves on and my hat and everything, so yeah, it's good. It's very good.
Earlier this week it was hammering with rain, and now the sun is out. Actually, it's quite foggy here this morning. But
oh, shame.
Yeah, I can see the sun through it. So we're not alone today, are we? We've got a special guest with us, and this came about because, as regular listeners to the podcast might know, particularly myself, is quite a fan and quite a reader of the Titan Doctor Who comics. And Paul, you are catching up on all of that and kind of.
I am. I'm a noob. I'm a newbie. You are, I'm just starting out on that wonderful journey, you might say. I must admit, I have boxes in the loft at home filled with the comics, and because my wife said you can't keep taking up room in the house with these, so they've got to go. You need some words there, mate.
So we did a podcast episode a little while ago where we looked at the our top 5 13th Doctor comics, and we got it caught the attention of Mr. Jonathan Wilkins, who is the editor of the Doctor Who comics range at Titan Comics, and he joins us today. Jonathan, hello.
Hello.
How are you?
Yes, please. Oh, I'm very well, thank you. How are you?
Yes, not too bad at all. Thank you very much for joining us.
I love it. We're all sort of shoved in our cupboards so that our partners are happy, with all the Doctor Who merchandise around.
Oh, this is it, yeah. This is the man cave kind of thing, isn't it?
I love it, yeah. If only we had a TARDIS to fit it all in, we'd still fill it, wouldn't we?
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, I've never thought of that. That would be the perfect solution to it, wouldn't it?
That's what you need to do,
space,
Jeff. Yeah.
Infinite stuff, no problems.
So turn your loft into a multi-dimensional time-traveling space machine thing, and that's simple, honestly. Peter Cushing could do it, you could do it.
I'll have it done by the end of the weekend.
There you go,
so
sorted.
I'll be on it, yeah. So, Jonathan, as you saw a little while ago, we put out a podcast about the 13th Doctor comics and various other comics, and if you had a chance to have a watch or a listen, hopefully you liked it. Well, I guess you wouldn't be here now if you didn't. So.
What are these jokers on?
No, I'm just here to tell you how terrible it was. Bye.
Thanks, mate. It's good that you took time out of your day to do that, Jonathan.
Yes.
Really appreciate it.
Appreciate it, yeah. So, we've got a load of questions for you here. So let's kick it off. Tell us what being the editor of the Doctor Who range at Titan involves.
Late
lunches, long lunches.
Oh, no lunch at all. No, we're not allowed lunch at Titan. It's a very long story. I essentially got only recently started in the role, so I'm kind of still very much finding my feet. But it's really sort of shepherding the story. We have a writer and artist. Kelsey Ramsey is our artist on this particular current run, and Dan Waters has given us a brilliant story, I think, and it's essentially just sort of putting those things together and making sure that they work. And I'm kind of, if it's not too unpleasant an image, I'm kind of the glue that sort of glues these elements together and makes sure the comic works. It's sensible. It's sensible. Of course, it's not sensible. It's Doctor Who. It's mad, but it's but that makes the story flow properly and makes it and essentially chases poor Kelsey for art if she's. She's normally chasing me for invoices. Actually,
some things never change.
It's really that role and making sure that the BBC obviously are happy with it, and we're not doing anything that is off-brand. Although it's fairly easy to make sure it's on brand. Doctor Who, the Doctor as a character has certain parameters that you would never cross, and so that's that. It's kind of that, really. That's kind of the main part of the job.
Well, we'll come on to some more of that stuff shortly, but tell us how you got started working at Titan, because you've been there for a while, haven't you? And Doctor Who is not the only thing you're involved in with them.
Yeah, that's very true. So I started Titan, must be nearly 20 years ago now.
Really?
Yeah,
back in the early days.
I don't look it, do I? I started Titan. I joined working on a magazine called Dreamwatch, which was it kind of had a long history. It was it used to be the Doctor Who bulletin, which was a kind of a pretty aggressive fan paper back in the day.
I remember it.
They kind of ironed out all that nastiness and turned it into a nice little sci-fi magazine. And then within about a month of starting working on that title, it folded, which was great news. And my boss at the time just said, "Look, are you interested in Star Wars?" And of course, anyone says that, you say, "Well, yes, obviously."
Is the Pope Catholic?
Exactly. So I ended up working on Star Wars, and after a little while became editor on the Star Wars This is the magazine side of what Titan does, and ended up working on the Star Wars magazine, and then I kind of went on to, or at the same time I was doing Smallville. I mean, it was a very interesting period at the time. There were all these shows that had magazines. I mean, there was a Lost magazine, there was a Alias. Remember Alias?
Yeah, I used to love that.
Yeah.
There was even at one point a Grey's Anatomy magazine.
Really?
I mean, it's just
got to try these things, haven't you?
It was actually really popular for a while. But I think sci-fi is obviously the audience of people that are quite obsessive about it and want to know all the details, and they'll go and buy the magazines for these things. So I was off those titles, and I kind of I ended up on doing. Let me think. I ended up doing like Marvel magazines for the movies, which have since then gone on to do Marvel things for the comics. But I think what those kind of were, and what the Marvel thing was, and what the Star Wars movie magazines have been, I mean, I don't know how old you guys are, but I'm old enough to remember the days you used to go and buy. You'd go to the cinema, and they would have magazines for sale in the cinema of a movie that you were going to see. There'd be a Star Trek 4 one, or Aliens, and it's that sort of souvenir magazine of the movie, that you used to be able to get. And I kind of really miss those days. I've still got piles of them for like Flash Gordon and To a Kill and all that sort of stuff, So it's that sort of thing, and kind of bring it up to date. Then the editor Jake, who was on the title previously, he took some time off work on paternity leave, and me being a massive Doctor Who fan said, "Oh, I'll look after Doctor Who while you're gone," and I haven't let it go.
It's clinging onto it.
You don't know I've got Doctor Who now. I'll do Doctor Who. So he's gone on to bigger and better things in the company, and I'm kind of I'm like sort of Sutek when he's over the TARDIS and he's got the TARDIS around his arms, like, it's mine, So that's kind of how I ended up where I am.
Yeah, it's 20 years ago. I mean, that was you're right, it was quite an interesting period with all these TV shows, wasn't it? Because there seemed to be a glut of them, and obviously Star Wars at that point, so we were just coming out through the first lot of the prequels, weren't we, with was it Revenge of the Sith had probably just been around, what was that, 2003, 4, something like that?
2005, so Revenge of the Sith was the same year as the revival of Doctor Who, so it was. So I kind of started just after that, the year after Revenge of the Sith. So we were going into the Clone Wars cartoon, and people used to say, "How do you fill a magazine of Star Wars stuff?" I say, "Because there's lots of Star Wars stuff. There's the books and the comics and all that stuff." So really, that was that whole period, and we used to, the office was. There were all sorts of magazines we were doing, about TV shows, and Star Trek as well being another one that we do as well. So I
remember I used to go and get the Alias magazine, and
did you?
I loved Alias, and I don't think Titan did it, but there was like the Buffy and Angel magazine, and,
we did. That's Titan.
That's one of yours.
That's Titan. I also say, of course, we did. My good friend Simon Hugo had edited the Torchwood magazine for a while, which was good fun. I think he was most excited he got to interview Richard Briers.
Screen legend, of course.
I know.
Chief caretaker and all that.
Sort of, yes. Lots of questions about ever decreasing circles, and maybe one question about Torchwood.
Yeah, and I know the Marvel, they're like bookazines, aren't they now? You know, they're kind of a hardback, and I've got a few of those as well, and it's nice to get that kind of slightly behind the scenes look and a bit more in depth. You know, a lot of the film magazines, you know, they'd have a couple of pages on something, you know, but it wasn't going, you know, that in depth. And Marvel do those fantastic art books, but there's very little kind of production stuff on them. And the Titan, bookazines really filled that gap quite nicely.
Yeah, I think they're good fun to work on. It's amazing the pictures, you know, all these green screen pictures and behind the scenes things of, you know, Mark Ruffalo as the Hulk, but he's just got these giant sort of foam hands. Sort of. In some ways, it's a little bit sad. It feels like you're kind of letting sort of daylight in on magic. But it's I find it all fascinating stuff.
It is.
And the general hope is that some 8-year-old kid will pick it up and go, "Oh wow, this is really cool."
I think it's like you said. Actually, I mean, I think specifically fans of sci-fi and TV fantasy and, you know, all that sort of stuff, I think we are quite obsessive. I don't know if there's any other sort of type of TV or movie genre that caters to its fans in that way, in such detail, you know, across so many different media platforms.
You know what? I don't think there is. I mean, the thing is, you think soap operas, but you would never do an EastEnders magazine.
No.
Although, you know, the soap magazines sell phenomenally well, but I think that's not people wanting to know how Emmerdale Emmerdale is made. That's people wanting to know what happens next.
That's it. It's the plot lines and the characters, and maybe in interviews or stuff with the actors, but not necessarily the production side of things, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
My wife's a huge Neighbours fan, and you know, she often says, you know, there's no books about it, there's no magazines, that you can't buy it on DVD or anything. You know, there's nothing for it. And but we went to that Neighbours a celebration tour thing that they did a couple of years ago, and it was delayed because of COVID, and it was only going to be a one-off show in London, and then in the interim of all the delays, the show got picked up again by Amazon, of course, and this one-off show turned into a whole tour around the country, and you know, kind of showed that, you know, there's an audience there for this stuff, you know, quite specifically, but not to the extent of sort of things that we like, you know. So it was quite interesting going to it, and, you know, people losing their minds over the Neighbours cast singing the theme song, you know.
Be very careful what you wish for, though, because you could end up with a Neighbours room in your house. Lots of Big Finish Neighbours CDs. Neighbours Expanded Universe.
Yeah, I'd like to see them fit into that continuity. Yeah,
you could probably work. And you get character options, doing little Kylies, little Jasons. Yeah. You know, that's obviously my era of Neighbours. You know, I used to watch it back then in the 80s, wasn't it? Mid-80s.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, who wouldn't want a Stephen Dennis action figure?
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah, that's it.
We'll have a word with Al at character. Yeah.
There you go.
So, Jonathan, when you started at Titan, am I right in thinking there wasn't a comics department? You know, it was the magazines and things, but not specifically.
Comics. Yeah, it was really mainly magazines, and I think the goal was always to really go into comics, and, you know, Titan as a company also incorporates the Forbidden Planet chain of stores, so it's
and things.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So it's all very comic oriented. So yeah, it was really a case of only a matter of time really before we went really big on the comics, and, you know, we produce now many more comics than magazines. Magazines are kind of a dying art, unfortunately. Whereas comics, we kind of do a Blade Runner comic, we do a what else do we do? I mean, it's just across the board, you know. Blade Runner, video game comics, huge. We've just put out, believe it or not, a Jimi Hendrix comic.
Really?
It's just what the world needs, man.
well, what is amazing is it's Jimi Hendrix in space. It's a massive space adventure with Jimi Hendrix, and I say it to you now and you laugh at it. Actually, it's absolutely brilliant.
Yeah, I love the idea of that.
It's just full on psychedelic. The art is beautiful. The likenesses are great.
Yeah.
It's a big deal. So
Jimi Hendrix in space with his axe. Yeah.
It's all about absolutely. It's all about those wild ideas, and we have a lot of fun sort of in the office saying, hey, wouldn't it be fun if we did my big one is a Duran Duran comic where they solve crimes around the world and they just land on their yacht and jump off and decide the Bond is investigating. Nick Rhodes is just doing his hair or whatever,
That sort of reminds me of was it? Do you remember this magazine Looking from the 70s and 80s?
Oh yes.
Was it every Thursday it came out like with smash hits as well?
Yeah, they would sort of do that stuff, wouldn't they? Or was it like the Monkeys on the TV? I mean, that's before my time. I'm not quite that old, but I watched the reruns where the Monkeys would do that sort of thing. They not necessarily solve crimes, but they get mixed up in all kinds of japes and capers and stuff like that. Where, so the heroic band becomes the solver of all the world's problems and stuff like that. It's all good fun. I love that.
Really good.
Jimi Hendrix in space. I'm going to look out for that next time I'm in for the
planet. You've got to check it out. Yeah.
So how did Titan get involved with Doctor Who to be making comics and getting the license for it? And how did it all kind of start? I know you probably weren't necessarily massively involved then, but tell us what you do know about those early days of it.
Well, I was kind of over in the opposite corner, and a lovely guy called Andrew James was the editor. And basically, it was a case of Titan went for the license and won the license, and there was a David Tennant comic. It was there was a Matt Smith. Then it was as Peter Capaldi was coming in as well. So. It was all of those, and there were Torchwood comics, and there was
the multi-doctors and
then we went into lots of multi-doctor. Then there was Paul Cornell did a great John Pertwee era mini series. We had a Tom Baker series, Fourth Doctor. I think we kind of there's a couple of Doctors we didn't do. I still lament that we didn't get around to a Peter Davison Doctor. Actually, he's my Doctor, but there's still time. You never know. So it's a case of really, and these comics, they're for the whole world, obviously, forever. They're kind of almost predominantly American comic. They're American format comics.
Yeah.
So, and Doctor Who, obviously, at that time, around the time of the Matt Smith era, the Day of the Doctor, and everything was so huge in America. And so that was the thinking of get a comic out there for the American market, although it's still quintessentially Doctor Who. It's like when you say, oh, it's American, you think, oh, is he, does he act American? No, it's none of that.
Very the production of it, is it? Yeah. So it fits on the shelves, it's the right size, the right format,
it's
right
the
price.
Formatting, and absolutely that. So
the 10th and 11th, and 12th at one point, all had original companions in them as well. So how was the process to kind of develop them? And, there was, a live action version of some of them as well for photo covers too, weren't there? And so how does all that happen? And, the BBC's involvement and all of that kind of thing.
Yeah, it's really a case of the writers and the editor at the time really put together a package, if you like, and you put together, here's the history of this character, who they are, what their relationship to the Doctor is going to be, how they, in modern Doctor Who, of course, it's also who their families are. That's you would never have really had that with if we done a comic with Dodo or something.
It would be better for it, to be honest.
And so it's really a case that you do that almost like a little biography and get some sketches of his, make sure the companion looks right next to the Doctor. I know that sounds like a weird thing, but them to look. It's almost like having a chemistry, with that.
Yeah.
Even though they're just drawings, how would this work in real life? So there's a lot of that, and then you obviously get notes back and say, oh no, it might be the case of we're doing something in the show that this is going to clash with, so can you just avoid that? And that's kind of really how it all comes about. And then obviously the scripts come in, and it's building a character from the ground up, like exactly as they would do on TV or any medium really. Just trying to make something that works, especially for the comic format.
Does it happen a lot if there's the BBC would come back and say, yeah, there's a clash, or is it quite rare and infrequent? Without going into specifics, obviously.
No, I'm just trying to think of any times it has actually happened. I mean, not really. No, it's funnily enough, I think there might be one or two times where, would you mind if this character doesn't do this, or if the Doctor. Yeah, I mean, it might be like if the Doctor. I'm trying to think of an example of example. If would you mind if the Doctor doesn't say this because this is going to be referred to elsewhere, or this, if you don't want to kind of tread on the toes of the TV show. But
do notes like that come from BBC Studios and the brand, or is it the production team itself? How involved are they on things?
Well, it all comes from the BBC in general. So we really, it's. I think everybody sees everything just to make sure that we're in line with what they're doing. We don't want a terrible clash where we do. I don't know, Doctor Who meets Taylor Swift, and Taylor Swift is guesting in the show. By the way, I don't think she's guesting in the show.
I was say, is that a spoiler?
Well,
it happened with Kylie Minogue, so it could happen.
Yeah, you never know. But so you don't want to do that sort of to confuse the audience or the readership. Yeah, but Doctor Who's a funny franchise anyway, though, because to a certain extent, anything can happen in Doctor Who. If a good story is to be told, you can, it's
Couple Hendrix. Doctor meets Jimi Hendrix in space. Yeah. I mean, there's a story. That would be a good 12th Doctor story, wouldn't it?
The 12th Doctor couple with
both of them with their guitars.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
So the range got pretty
He's thinking
massive,
about that now. Look, see his eyes. Possible story there.
So the range got quite massive at one point, didn't it? 10, 11, 12 all had series, then the crossovers and the classics and stuff, and then it all kind of led into the 13th Doctor series, which we'll sort of talk a bit more about in a minute. But can you sort of say anything about how things ended up scaling back a little bit, and individual ranges stopped? And
it's kind of tricky because there was an awful lot out there, and I think I almost hesitate to say it now in our room surrounded by our Doctor Who. You can sometimes have too much of something, and it
becomes saturated. Sometimes
doesn't it? A little bit less is more, and the anticipation is always really nice. Of I can't wait to see what happens next. Well, if what happens next is literally then in your hand, it's quite nice to have that pause and speculate. So I think there was a bit of like, let's try and maybe slow it down a little bit, but also with the comics as well. It's a lot of hard work because we do multiple covers for a lot of our comics.
Yeah.
And I think for the first few issues when we first got the license, there were as many as 50 covers, I think, for one of the issues. Wow. And that was all for different comic stores, different markets, different, some were photos, some were art, some were, and I mean, poor collectors. As a collector myself, it's oh wow, this is
it's true. Like the Marvel comics and stuff, for example, have different covers. And, there's artists, as you probably know, that only do covers and stuff. And there was something came out recently. A guy called David Nakayama did some covers for Scarlet Witch stuff, and I was like, I'm gonna have a look at these. They're £50 or more. And I thought, wow, it's so cool. Can I justify it? And it's difficult. And I remember the Who ones, like, looking through the back pages and seeing all the cover variants. Oh, that's cool, and they're all really good. But it's just tons of them, and it's kind of hard to keep up with it after a while, isn't it?
It is. And I have to say, on the flip side of that, though, it is very fun to come up with some of the because you might get a brief, or it might be we just need something different. And there's an example we did for Comic-Con. I don't know if you guys can see that.
Yes,
we did online, this one with which the brief was actually just can it be under the arch at Comic-Con? And I said, well, can we go totally mad with it and have some really obscure Doctor Who aliens? So your fellow from the rescue here, and the monoid. I think that must be a first for Comic-Con to have those characters.
Getting a monoid on, definitely, yeah.
And then they've got goblins and so forth. So when it comes to doing that sort of stuff, that's actually really good fun. And you go to the artist, and if the artist, as definitely it was in this case with Christopher Jones, if the artist is on your wavelength and knows the characters you're talking about and goes, oh yeah, what about if we did this? And fantastic, the more obscure the better.
Definitely,
that can be fun, because I think hopefully the fans really like that. Probably the comic audience in America are pretty bemused by who those characters are.
What are we buying into here? What is this?
They've got to just catch up.
Exactly.
So when the 13th Doctor series started, it was like all of the stuff, it was great, but it kind of had quite a few delays, didn't it? And then, if I remember rightly, it ended on a bit of a cliffhanger, which when we tweeted that we were chatting to you, we had a couple of people send us messages. I need to know when it's continuing.
What's happening
next? So can you talk a little bit about how that kind of ended up a bit staggered, and why it didn't continue?
I can't tell you why it was staggered. Not because I would tell you if I knew, but it wasn't something I was actually involved in. In terms of it continuing, I think it was a case of we ran out of time, and it was on to the next Doctor. If an opportunity, if the opportunity ever comes up, obviously we listen to what the readers say and what they want, and if the opportunity does come up to just put a little ending onto that era for the comics, then of course it's something we will definitely look at. But what I would recommend for readers is if you write Titan comics, and if tell us what you want. It's it's like the Spice Girls. Tell us what you want, what you really, really want.
We can put a little song together or something like that. Colin Baker style.
Yeah, I'll let you take the lead on that, Phil. Yeah.
It's really good because feedback on all of these things is really important. And criticism, and it doesn't matter if it's as long as it's not "this is terrible" and that's not helpful at all. But if it's like, hey, have you? Would you consider doing this, or is there any chance that this character could come back, or this could happen? We look at all that stuff. It's I know lots of people think, oh no, those emails go in and then they just get shoved away. They don't. Yeah. We do look at, see what people like and people want, and do take that sort of thing really seriously. So.
Well, Titan do seem to be in tune with the fan mindset, and obviously talking to you and looking at your shelf behind you, that is clearly the case.
Yeah,
is that throughout the business? Are you all kind of geek nerd fans, or is it much more commercially astute than that? Perhaps I don't know.
No.
One of our questions was, "Are you a Doctor Who fan?" Before you got involved with the comic, but I don't need to ask that now.
So let me tell you, I have been a Doctor Who fan since the 5 Faces of Doctor Who in about 1980. So
I remember that. Yes, I was there.
Here's the thing. So my first Doctor Who memory, and this is so funny because I was talking about this to Darren Scott, who's the editor of SFX. And me and Darren said, "What was your first memory?" And we both said exactly the same thing. It was really weird, and it was this really odd moment where Romana is in a cave and these spiders are crawling around. Everyone's really scared. Oh, they're only spiders, and she kicks one away, and then they get a bit more intense, and she lifts up a watermelon, or it's a marsh fruit or whatever.
Yeah, from Full Circle, this one, isn't it?
Yeah, Full Circle, probably episode 3 or so.
Yeah.
And it cracks open, and a spider falls down the bicep. And I remember saying this to Darren, he said, "Oh, that's my first memory as well. That's so weird." And it was an incredible time because it was. But I didn't watch it regularly then, because when you're a kid, you don't really know when it's on. Or when
exactly.
So Five Faces was on, which really was like it was at a fixed time. So you kind of knew. Carnival of Monsters was the one that really got me in that season. I thought just an absolute banger. And around the time there was the Madame Tussauds thing with the John Baker, which we went to, and I remember going into that and being absolutely terrified because they actually lit the Nymon properly, so the Nymon looked really scary. Went to that, and then there was a teacher at my school who was really into Doctor Who and had all these. We shouldn't say this, but it was in the past.
Go on.
Had all these video. He had what seemed like them all on video. I really hope there weren't any missing. Long since deceased, but he had like all these videos, and if you sort of on a Friday, if you did well in your spelling test, this sounds so dodgy, doesn't it? If you did well in your spelling test and took a blank tape in, he would record. He would record an episode or a story for you.
Treat, isn't
on
it?
Monday with he or his The Mind of Evil or whatever.
Oh my goodness! Wow.
So
that's proper bootleg, that, isn't it?
I know. Right. And then of course that was swiftly followed up by the big one, which was Longleat, which I actually got to. Like Did
you?
Yeah, I was there. Yeah, I know, and I had no idea at the time it was going to be this thing that grown men get very tearful about, that they didn't get to go.
It was massive though, wasn't it? And it ridiculously oversubscribed. So many people just piled in, and they thought, "Wow, this is something."
Well, it's Mark Strickson's fault because he went on. I think it was Saturday Superstore and said to everyone, just turn up, there'll be space.
There'll be loads of room. Longleat Estate's massive, which it is, but still.
He's an agent of the Black Guardian, isn't he? Going to cause him chaos. So that's kind of how I got into it, and it kind of, I mean, it's peaked and troughed over the years. I was very much a Peter Davison kid. I love the Colin Baker stuff. Sylvester McCoy, I kind of was getting a bit older, and I felt like I was a bit too cool for it. Imagine that. And then it's kind of just been with me sort of throughout, and I've kind of always loved it. Always been a huge fan. And the other big part of it, of course, is the Doctor Who magazine. Being a huge thing to get, especially the comic strip. The comic was still my favourite comic strips ever produced. The Voyager, even the World Shapers, which gets a real knock. I just think is absolutely
I think it's great. We were talking about that on a previous podcast as well, weren't we? Championing the Sixth Doctor comics and the Fifth Doctor ones, Tide of Time, which I think is just epic.
It's amazing.
It's so good.
Amazing. So so it's all that stuff, and it kind of feeds you along, and there's no chance to go off and go off into another direction and I'm going to really be into Blake Seven. I mean, like Blake Seven, but Doctor Who's always been there. And a special shout out for my parents who when we went to Longleat, the gift shop, I bought a tape cassette of the Doctor Who sound effects album.
Oh,
guess what we listened to in the car all the way home back to London.
All the way back.
And it was one of those tape cassettes that flips over, so it just went on and on and on.
Croton sound effect number 7.
Girlfriend stays a 3 blast. Absolutely hard. My poor parent, my dad, probably desperate to listen to the cricket scores.
Patience of saints there. You do well by them. Definitely.
Yeah, absolutely. So yes. Anyway, that's it. But to answer your other part of the question, in Titan, yes, everybody is really into comics, really into TV, sci-fi. Absolutely, like it's I think you kind of have to be. I don't think you could do it if you weren't into it.
I think it's clear that everything that the comics, the books, the t-shirts, everything all comes from real place of fandom and
passion
and love.
Yeah.
And, some of the like what do they call it, Time Lord Tuesday stuff that's coming out at the moment, in Forbidden Planet. There's some kind of quite obscure stuff in there, and that's from they're fans doing that,
Well, yeah, that's kind of the Titan merch guys, Jay and Anthony, who again, they're just massive fans, and they just like, you can do all the commercial, a T-shirt with a Dalek on and all that stuff, but come on, who doesn't want one with the Zarbi on, or
absolutely,
all that stuff,
But that's it, because in a way, it's almost like the more obscure, the better. If you know, it's that kind of thing. If you don't, you'd mean nothing to me anyway.
Absolutely, yeah, totally.
This week's one was the Morbius creature. It's who's ever not wanted a T-shirt with a clawed brain in a jar creature thing,
that's the massive. That's the thing about Doctor Who that I find so fascinating, that we're 2024, and you can get a T-shirt with the Morbius creature on.
Yeah.
It was only last year or the year before, you could go into a B&M shop and buy an action figure of Ian Chesterton. I just think
it's brilliant.
I think that is absolutely, it's wild. When they did that pack of Sensorite characters, that was just like,
it's nuts,
wow.
Isn't it?
I don't think any other franchise, I know Star Wars obviously do the different aliens, but for a black and white show in the 60s,
well, that's the thing, isn't it? Yeah, I mean, Star Wars, for all its wealth of universe and everything else, only goes back to 1977. Doctor Who 1963, and still going strong. It's quite incredible. You look at that stuff, like you're saying with the monoid on your on the cover that you showed us just there. It's get away with the monoids. I love the monoids. It's just the Beatles haircut, the big eye in the middle, and their dumpy way of moving around. It's just it's brilliant. It warms the cockles of my heart, it does, I tell you.
That's the lovely thing about Doctor Who as well. It's the creature designs are so imaginative, and okay, they did what they can in terms of rubber suits on Mars, but it doesn't take a lot, in this day and age, just to give them a little tweak, and suddenly they're really contemporary and really strong. Just a testament to the skill of all the people involved in making it at the time.
So
definitely.
Tell us a little bit about the 15th Doctor series now, which has just kicked off a couple of issues ago. So how far ahead is it planned, and what could you tease about it?
I'm pleased you think it's planned. That's great.
It certainly seems that way.
Yeah, absolutely. No, it is. It's planned. It is, honestly, it's planned. It's really. So I came into it just after we'd done the Free Comic Book Day edition, which was the adventure with Dick Turpin, and it's we knew we wanted to do because we knew that there were going to be the Doctor was going to be facing gods in this series essentially, and it was the slightly more supernatural element. So we knew we wanted to do that. But we were really lucky because the thought was, I wonder if we can have a classic monster in it, and let's go high. Let's go for the Daleks. Maybe that would be a step too far because every Doctor at some point is going to meet the Daleks. Sure, you would think anyway. That would be weird.
Yeah.
And it was a case of so which is the second one? Well, the Cybermen. Can we do the Cybermen? And bless the BBC, they sort of thought about it, and we explained what we wanted to do with it, and the Cybermen are in the story. So it is the 15th Doctor faces the Cybermen, which is kind of exciting. And the challenge there, we also came up with a new look for the Cybermen, which is again. Not at all daunting for
they look
designing
really cool.
it, But yeah, it was a thing. It was a sort of almost like a dark dimension type Cybermen. I mean, the Cybermen in this story are very different to what we've seen before, and there's a few twists and turns as to why they're in the story and what they're doing in this adventure. But yeah, that was kind of the big one, getting the Cybermen in.
Yeah,
was there quite a lengthy process behind that, designing different ideas, different concepts that you kind of went through and said yes, no, maybe, that sort of thing?
Well, yeah, my big contribution to it, I have to say, was it was all pretty much done, and I said, "Can they have human hands, please?" Because I just love that thing where they have human.
Yeah, like in the 10th Planet. Yeah.
Yeah, there's something about that's. These creatures that can't feel, but they've got human hands and can touch things. And
vestiges.
I can kind of imagine that when they touch it, that they're freezing cold. The hand is cold, and it just it feels a bit spookier. So so that was kind of and it's all set in a the shopping centre at the end of the Earth's time. So the Earth is about to. And so we're in a shopping centre, and of course people are still shopping. And
of course they are. Yeah, people still need stuff.
Sort of stuck in there, aren't they? They can't.
Yeah, not wishing to spoil the show, but there's a little Easter egg I was quite pleased with, where Magpie Electricals is still running.
Yeah.
Still going all those years later. Yeah.
Brilliant.
And there's another new enemy, isn't there? The Somalia. Is that how you pronounce it?
It's the Somalia or the Somalia. No, Somalia. Sorry. Yeah, of course.
Somalia.
Jeff,
come on, get it right.
No, it's my. Do you know what? I spend all my time writing stuff and typing stuff, and then when it comes to actually say it, how do you actually say it?
I need to stop and think. How do I want this said? Yeah.
So this is a god who he collects kills them, and then collects their screams in a bottle.
Nice.
Which is a very sort of it's kind of a Doctor Who sort of thing, I think, and
he's sort of Dracula looking, isn't he? And the sort of
he looks like a regular person, and then when you get sort of the sense that you're about to, or that you're a bit scared, just to push you into that final scream, his mouth opens, he's got these big teeth, and it's actually quite terrifying, actually.
Yeah, he's really cool.
So he's a cool, interesting character. I think we might not have heard the last from him. You never know.
Oh, that's good, because it's a bit like what was the one in the 13th Doctor series? Was it called the Collector? The kind of demon-y looking.
Yes, yeah.
And that guy appeared, kind of throughout that first year. So is there plans for the 15th Doctor to have kind of a? Will it be ongoing, or will it be kind of done as a as a season, and then there'll be another season of it, or how far ahead have you?
Yeah, this is so. Without giving too much away, this is a season of 4 episodes, 4 issues. The last one is coming up at the end of November, which I think more by luck than judgment is coming out the same as the anniversary Doctor Who. November. And then there are plans to do more next year, hopefully. We're thinking of some stories, and we'll see. As always, it depends on how many people buy these things, how many, sales are really important to us. Always, just so that we can keep going. But we've got some really good ideas going forward. So, which I'm not going to tell you.
No, of course not. Why would you? Nobody ever does, Jeff, do they?
No, but everyone teases things and doesn't tell us anything.
No, I wish I was better at it than the Rusty T. Davids of saying, this might happen and that might happen, but I'm so terrified of
we'll wheedle it out of you somehow. Don't worry. We'll come from left field or something. But I mean, just on the story writing process, then the creative part of it, getting the story, shaping the story, coming up with ideas. Are they sort of pitched to you? Do you pitch back to them? Is it a bit of backwards and forth with the artists, the writers, all that? How does that work?
It's really there's a lot of collaboration. Generally, what will happen is we'll say, "Wouldn't it be good if we did this?" And and there'll be a pitch, so what if it's Doctor Who meets, and then I don't know, Neighbours.
Yeah.
Sorry,
that said Jimi Hendrix there, which is, but we'll go with Neighbours.
Mrs. Mangle is a timeless doctor.
Caught in that cul-de-sac. What's it called after whatever the street's called? I forget what it is. But
Ramsey Street.
Yeah, Ramsey Street. That's it. Imagine being in like an eternal Ramsey Street with no way out. Like Truman Show style kind of thing.
Trouble is I said this as an example of something that wouldn't be very good. Yes. It could be the Australian dimensions in time.
There you go. Exactly. Yeah, we'll sort out the agreement afterwards somewhere.
Yeah, absolutely. Well done. Yes. So where was it? So yes. So what we'll do is we'll come up with an idea. We'll have an idea of what's going to happen in the next season of the show, and say, well, there's this little hook that we can use to tie in more. So again, the last issue of this storyline for the 15th Doctor does tie in to stuff that happens in the last season of the TV show. Cool. So there's some little.
Well, that's quite nice, isn't it? I quite like it when it does that. It, sort of has a nice little tie into what you've actually watched on the telly. It kind of cements that bond between the addition, the other media and the TV.
Yeah, it's just a nice little sort of. It's a little Easter egg. It's not doesn't hinge on the whole thing. But if you're reading it, you go, "Oh, that's nice. That's cool."
But I suppose it's different from like the old comic strips of the 60s and 70s, where the Doctor rarely ever looked like the Doctor. Had a completely different alternative. The only way you could reconcile it is by thinking, well, that's just a parallel universe where some weird shit happens that has no relation to the TV, but whatever.
Well, it's funny that though, because isn't that it's the same with the Colin Baker strips and the Peter Davis strips, that you think, well, Frobisher, where does he fit in? And then he's with the Colin Baker Doctor, but then he's with the Sylvester McCoy Doctor when he's just regenerated. How does that fit? But as fans, don't you just love sitting, working it out?
Yeah, that's it, exactly. Yeah, you make those connections. Work. Yeah.
And if all else fails, it's timey-wimey stuff.
Exactly. No other explanation. Just go down the Stephen Moffat route, timey-wimey. Whatever.
It's like the Fugitive Doctor, isn't it?
There you go. Exactly. Exactly that.
Puzzle, So last year we had a 10th Doctor story that was written by Dan Slott, Ten and Martha.
That was a good one.
Brilliant. It was very clever narratively, and it was very funny, and it was very smart. I always liked his Spider-Man work, but I thought it was superb. So am I right in thinking he's supposed to be doing 2 more specials like that? And can you tell us anything about those and which Doctors and when we might see them?
I can't, no.
Okay, moving on.
You've got to ask anyway.
I can't. Dan is very, very busy. I know he is a massive Doctor Who fan, I can tell you that, but I'm not actually privy to anything that might be coming up in that sphere. So, we will see either way. But I wish I could give you a slightly better answer.
But it'd be good to see some stuff from him, though, right? Wouldn't it?
Oh yeah, I mean, like it's amazing, the guy who's such a powerful writer for Spider-Man, and one of the all-time best Spider-Man writers, also loves Doctor Who. I think that's really lovely that it has that sort of crossover.
Yeah.
So that's
pedigree,
really cool.
I guess, isn't it?
It was really good. Yeah. So, are there any plans for any other Who comics? Any other classics, or is it just kind of focusing on 15 for now?
For now, the focus is on 15. I think it's I think he's a new Doctor. We really want to sort of not rely on any past Doctors and just push him to the front, because I think he's absolutely brilliant. I think I think he's kind of made the role his own already, and I don't think it'd be fair to kind of step back and do other.
Yeah, totally agree.
And I think there's a lot more that we can do with his Doctor, and sort of in the story going forward. So no, there's no actual plans at the moment. Having said that, if there's a massive email campaign of saying we must have whatever,
Second Doctor,
Second Doctor, Second Doctor would be great. It's like my fan might thinking, bring them all on, let's do all the Doctors. But it would probably kill me. So, but
what a way to go, though, eh?
By the Doctor. If there is a really big, that and people are really interested in doing something, it is always worth writing in and making the suggestion, because we listen to all suggestions.
And you're generally quite open to that sort of input, then.
Yeah, sounds like it.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I think it depends on a lot of factors, but ultimately we're making a comic for an audience, and if there's an audience for a spin-off or another Doctor or any of those things, then we'll always have the discussion about doing it. That's for sure. Yeah, absolutely.
That's quite interesting, because normally, you think these big creative powerhouses, and they're like, we don't listen to the fans, we don't do this, we don't do that, and trying to reach anybody is you just stonewalled every kind of time. But I guess
it's difficult.
You guys are more.
I mean, it's difficult because there's always going to be sort of negative Nellies who come on and just want to
negative Nelly,
just want to come on and no, you know what I mean, like who are just like, I don't like it, and it's like, well,
that doesn't help,
what don't you like? What would you rather? And then it's criticism. It's the constructive criticism. We're always really happy to listen to that, and if it feeds into what we do, because if people don't want to buy our comics, then that's it.
Well, that's
we're catering to an audience, so
And how competitive is it in the industry then? Because like you're saying, magazines are kind of sort of diminishing, they're dwindling, aren't there? Number of titles that are still successful, they're very few in number, a lot fewer than they used to be. But comics, I don't know, I mean, is it a really competitive industry? You're always looking for somehow to get more sales, because you kind of need to keep pushing, but how do you guys navigate those waters?
Is it more digital sales these days than print copies, or?
That's a lot of questions we just thrown at you there, Jonathan.
That's fine. I can tell you that, well, the thing with all the sci-fi stuff and with the Star Wars things we do, and certainly with the Doctor Who comics, people are collectors. And digital is lovely, but it's nice to have, and it's nice to have that almost as a reading copy. But people, I think, certainly collecting, certainly speaking for myself, and I suspect you guys as well, it's really nice to have that thing in hand. You've got your copy. It's there. We know when a magazine or a book comes in the office, because people pick it up and smell it. It's so
for audio-only listeners, Jonathan is smelling his comics.
Yeah.
Right
oh
now.
yeah, thank you.
We've all done that. We all do it. I love it.
We all do it in the office, and there's a certain printer that sends stuff in, and we whenever there's a queue to sniff the books. Because they smell so lovely.
Smell my pages. Smell my pages.
These lovely crisp pages. Anyway, sniffing books, it's a slippery slope. I wouldn't recommend it. So yes.
That's brilliant.
But I think what I'm saying is that the digital stuff is really nice to have, but I think if you're a collector, obviously you're going to want that copy, and if you're a serious collector, you're going to have all the
different covers.
You're right. I mean, it's look at Blu-rays and 4K and stuff. Steel books and things. I bought my first one with the Power of the Doctor release, and then I was like, "Oh, this is really nice."
Get hooked on steelbooks easily.
And then other stuff comes out in it, and like Deadpool and Wolverine's coming out soon. You can choose between a Deadpool steelbook or Wolverine one. I was like, oh my god, I got to pick one of them.
No, you have both.
The coolest. Well, I can't justify
50 quid
both.
each or something, aren't they?
Yeah, but you're right, Jonathan. For fans and the collectors, with that push towards digital so much over the last couple of years, which is now sort of coming back into a physical, release of stuff. Like Marvel, they said they'll never release Disney Plus shows on home media, but now you're starting to get the really nice steelbook releases of everything, and there is an audience there for that sort of stuff, and special editions of things, and
yeah, absolutely. And of all things, like think of the action figures and the frenzy when there's a B&M,
and Davros hunting lately.
Oh, don't even. I've got my collection. I think I've got every single figure.
Have you?
Apart from, I think, the Vespiform, the Crucial Vespiform, the last couple of B&M figures, because I just can't get out to the B&M joint. It's so sad. And I was so happy yesterday when I bought my 15th and Ruby, and just, here's my money, figures in the post, all done within 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Oh, just stressed. I feel actually my heart pounding when those BMM, and it's such a shame because I'm such a collector of them. I'm so into them.
We had 15 and Ruby a little while ago, didn't we? So we could do our review, and I think you'll be very impressed by them. They're definitely the best figures.
They're really good.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Absolutely superb. Yeah,
and
really good detail.
I'm quite excited about it, even more than I ordinarily would be, because I think if you get the 15th and you put a Tom Baker scarf on him, he could look like he looks in our comic. Because the Doctor in the comic, he puts on a Tom Baker style scarf at one point.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
So you've got that instant variant.
Yes. Yeah. Any custom figure makers listening, get on it. Yeah.
yeah. And put that on whatever everyone does now, X, I guess, or Instagram, and CC Titan Comics, because we actually love to see that.
Brilliant.
Really cool.
So we know our duo at character pretty well, and they did a set of 10th Doctor, a 3-pack for B&M, and one of them was it 10, wearing in the raggedy 11th Doctor version of 10th Doctor's generation, which was a Titan cover image, I believe, because people on Twitter were going, what's this figure? And it was based on the comic cover, so it never sort of happened in the show. So maybe you could take one of Tom's scarves, or the one that the Jodie Power of the Doctor figure has, with the scarf, and they could put it on Shooty's figure. We'll have a word, see if they can
have a word. Absolutely.
Comic variation, that would be cool.
And maybe Al could send me some of those figures I haven't got. It's not all the time.
Get on his good side.
Absolutely. I bought everything.
I can see through your shelves. If you're listening to
it's a really impressive shelf.
Watching it on YouTube, you can see glimpses of things there, which
it's slightly. I'm slightly embarrassed by it at the moment, because we've moved house not so long ago, and I haven't. Nobody's holding their sonic screwdriver, or got their weapons, and they're not properly organised. So it's a bit of a you're having a privileged peek there.
I feel special.
Send you some
already.
photos when it's done properly.
Yes, please.
That'd be great. We love a shelfie.
Do look a good shelfie.
Other than Neighbours, are there any other universes that you'd like to take the Doctor into, or do comics or magazines of at Titan?
Wow, what a question! I mean, there's always crossover potential with anything with Doctor Who now, isn't it? I mean, the multiverse, the idea of multiverses is such a it's such a big thing now. It's amazing it's taken this long for it to really take a foothold. But the Doctor, wow, where would I take the Doctor?
Please hold the line.
Sorry, I haven't frozen.
It's a tentative silence there.
Pretending to freeze. No, oh gosh, and if only that was followed by a good idea. I think the Doctor. I would love to see the Doctor in a. Oh gosh.
Mine would be the world of Avatar.
Avatar.
Yeah, go to Pandora.
Interesting. Not so Avatar. It's quite divisive at Avatar, isn't it? You're either in Avatar or you're not.
Yeah.
You would stick everything in Avatar, Jeff, if you could.
Yeah.
Are you a big Avatar fan?
He's
massive. I like to see the picture.
Yeah.
Okay.
Signed by some of the cast. Yeah.
Oh wow.
Mm.
Okay, no, that's good. I would. All right, I'm going to put Doctor Who into the. It's really difficult. Like, you know what? It's like when someone says, "What's your favourite song?" and you instantly can't think of any songs.
Yeah, we had that as a podcast question the
mine
other
goes
day,
blank.
didn't we? Yeah.
I would put. Oh, here we go. Doctor Who in sort of kind of Toho type with monsters and Godzilla, King Kong, and all those things. The Doctor in that universe.
Yeah, that could be fun. Yeah.
Just as we're talking, I was thinking they had the Magic the Gathering set out last year, which was great. I still play that. And Magic has quite a, there's like the Planeswalkers characters and stuff in all that world. Why was there not a crossover between them? They had Doctor Who Magic. Why didn't they, there should be
getting the licenses to agree it,
with
perhaps.
Magic with Doctor Who, putting them together.
Yeah, I think maybe Doctor Who Lord of the Rings.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Okay.
Or maybe not.
Interesting. Yeah.
Well,
it's
there'd be an audience, wouldn't there?
The tricky thing is with Doctor Who is that it's a completely limitless format to a certain extent, but then so much has already been done. There's over 60 years of we've done this idea. I'm trying to find something new. I always thought it'd be quite funny if there was if the Doctor slipped through and entered our world, and maybe Tom Baker's Doctor met the real Tom Baker, and imagine
that'd be kind of weird.
Like that sort of thing. Or
you got me thinking of so there's a Red Dwarf episode, wasn't there? Back to Earth, where they end up literally in our world. Yeah. And they're watching, and it kind of riffs on Blade Runner. They meet for the creator and stuff like that. Have you ever seen that one? No? It's sort of a dodgy episode. It's not the best, but as an idea, the cast of Red Dwarf find themselves on present day Earth, and they go to like a John Lewis or something, and they're watching kind of themselves on the telly. It's kind of very meta. Yeah, very metafictional and all that stuff. But whether it was successful or not, I don't know. But it was fun. Yeah,
You see, I instantly like Doctor Who in the sort of Alien universe, but Alien universe feels a bit too rough and tough for Doctor Who.
Right, gritty. Yeah. Although I mean, see now this is the thing about Doctor Who, like you said, Jonathan, isn't it? Because because Doctor Who is so wide in its scope and concepts, it can accommodate these things. It's not so much that there's a crossover, but it will absorb elements of all these different, these other shows. So things like Aliens, for example. There was it Last Christmas where we had the facehuggery type things, and that was a really dark episode. And then even that one I didn't like so much, the one you love, the Mark Gatiss episode on with
Sleep No More.
Sleep No More. That was it. There was some real, some of the camera moves are very sort of alien-esque. So it can like, Doctor Who can riff on those themes quite easily and bring them into the show. And then the following week, it can just be about fart monsters and stuff, and it can cross through that, relatively easily, which gives it that unique flavour. So for me, I always think that Doctor Who is the show that doesn't need to cross over as such. And I'm not a massive fan of crossovers. I see them as a kind of, sort of what if and a wish fulfillment. But I think Doctor Who is strong enough on its own that it can take, pick and choose the best of all of those other different things into its own universe, so to speak.
And actually, you just made me think, of course, like Dragonfire was Doctor Who's answer to Alien, wasn't it, really?
Yeah, so, that was the idea, wasn't it, with the biomechanoid? Was supposed to look a bit like that, but under the right lighting conditions, the right sort of camera lenses, it probably would have done, but on a multi-camera, overlit studio floor, no.
And thinking a little bit further, Beryl Reid was our Sigourney Weaver, really.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, in Earthshock. Yeah. She had no clue what she was doing, which is interesting because in the novelisation of that, Ian Martin rewrites that character as a kind of as very much sort of hardcore female space captain in. Actually, she's dressed in leather. I think most of it. There's a lot of creaking leather of her gloves and stuff like that. But obviously,
isn't that just pure Doctor Who though? That
exactly,
you would have sort of Beryl Reid with her sort of tango coloured
yeah, exactly, this space freighter captained by a bunch of middle-aged women, which I think is a great idea. It goes so against the grain of what was going on at the time, and yet. And that's just the visual part. I know when Eric Sayward wrote it, he was very much in the grain of what was going on at the time, with the strong female characters and heroic types. And, the BBC sort of cast them, sitcom actors and stuff like that, which is weird, but works. Give me Beryl Reid every time.
Doctor Who would be a lot poorer if it was.
Absolutely, exactly. Yeah,
somebody more akin to that role. Yeah, absolutely.
Definitely.
Jonathan, do you have any tips for writers or artists who are just starting out, and can people submit work to you for consideration, for the comics?
So unfortunately, no, we don't take submissions as such, which is a shame. But we just don't have time. Wouldn't have time to read them.
I imagine you'd just be inundated. Yeah. Then
there's sort of various legalities that we wouldn't be able to. But if you really want to get into writing, I mean. And art, the key is to just do it. Like most writers, most writers who are failed writers because they just have written a few things, hasn't panned out. Oh well, I'll just give up. But if you've got a real passion for it, a real flair for it, just keep going and don't focus solely on Doctor Who if that's what you want to do, or Star Wars if that's what you want to do, because you think of, say, Russell T Davies, his career went all over the place, lovely ways, lovely different things before doing what ultimately is clearly his passion, which is Doctor Who. So I think, just have varied life experiences that you can inform your writing and head for that route, really, is the best way to do it. Write stuff, submit stuff to publishers, that do take submissions on stuff.
Well, there are a few around there, aren't there? Some small press and what have you that can.
Yeah, small press. I mean, these days you've got small press. You've got people write things and that they have Kickstarter campaigns, like that. And there should be a way. I mean, some of the loveliest books these days I've read are small press. I'm sure you guys have seen. There's one called Scarred for Life, which is. All the terrifying things that we were shown as children, as you probably should.
Yeah, I love those guys. Yeah.
They put together, and that's a small press enterprise. And gosh, I've read those books again and again and again. They're absolutely lovely. So the key is it's potentially easier these days to get published with all these small publishers. The internet's open.
It's easier in some ways.
Find people. So. Yeah,
I think it's difficult. You're right. I think there's a lot more avenues to getting your work out there. I think it's potentially difficult actually then just finding your audience. But like you say, John, I think you've just got to keep at it, haven't you? If you're passionate enough and you're skilled enough that there are stories that people want to read and see, then they will find their audience.
Yeah, and it's perseverance, and that's the thing. You've got to have a real tenacity to keep going, and every writer. And artist imaginable will have tales of rejection and I nearly gave up, but I just there was that little spark that just kept me going, and that it just I mean, I hesitate to say it, but like, it's follow your dream. It's
it's kind of be focused, but be aware you've got to put the work into it, and be prepared for the knockbacks that are inevitably going to be happening. A lucky few manage to find the right agent or publisher straight away, but the 99.9% won't. It'll take a lot more resilience and a lot more hard work.
And then it's in a way you kind of make your own luck. There'll be an opportunity will come if you write and go for it, even if you're not the best of the best of the best. If your personality
visible, right?
shines through, if you've got that visibility, if your personality shines through, and you can sort of you've got that little bit of charisma just to make someone listen to you and
yeah, see,
like
that's why I
you.
failed. Yeah, zero charisma.
Oh, not at all. That's it's all. They're all little bits, and
Yeah.
but the one thing you can't do without is doing the work and putting the work. That's unfortunately, we'd all like, and it's true of. And honestly, it's true of lots of writers, and myself included. When I've written stuff, you sit looking at an empty page, a blank page, and all right, I'll go and have a sandwich, or I'll go, oh, right, let's watch Brain of Morbius.
Yeah.
And then you just, and in the end, the deadline suddenly appears, and off you go, So that's just, that's kind of life, I'm afraid.
Yeah. It is, yeah. Because you're a writer yourself. You put pen to paper quite on a few projects.
Not especially, like the occasional, like back in the day on Star Wars, the occasional article or feature, but and certainly for things like Doctor Who, I might just write a little sort of bit of blurb for the start of the comic. Just of this is the Doctor. And then suddenly you realise, there's a massive history.
20,000 words on the history of the Doctor.
He's from Gallifrey now. Is Gallifrey? Has it been destroyed, or is it gone? Where are we with Gallifrey? It's hard to tell.
Gone.
It's gone. It's gone. It came back. It's gone again. I don't know. Anyway, Gallifrey falls. More, no more, more, no more.
Yeah, again, and never again, and again, never.
So little bits like that. I certainly nothing.
Yeah.
I rely on people like Dan Waters to write as nice scripts.
Yeah. And obviously other things you're fan, because we've mentioned Star Wars, Star Trek, that we talked about, Alien as well. What are your other big passions?
Alien, Star Wars. Let's see. Like everything, I'm such an easy target. And
easy target.
I'm really big into the first Alien film. Like I know Aliens we had this. This is how geeky it is. Myself and my friend David in the office at lunchtime, we bore everyone rigid by ranking films and franchises.
It's got to be done.
The most tedious way to spend a lot. You see everyone's headphones go on.
They're off again. Yeah.
And we were actually yesterday saying how he was saying Aliens is a great film, and my view is Aliens is good, but in a way it derailed the franchise to become a guns and shooting stuff franchise as opposed to a horror franchise. And I really love that first Alien. I think it's such a perfect film for me.
Totally agree.
I have this debate with one of my friends who is tutor at the college in town here, and he's a judge on the film festival I run. He's a big Alien fan, which I like as well. I'm a big Aliens fan, big James
You're a big Cameron fan, aren't you? So that's always going to be your bias is going to be in that direction. But to be fair, I mean, I do love both, because I watched the recent one, Romulus. I push myself. I'm sat here at home, right? And I'm like, who's going to come to the pictures with me? What are you going to watch? The new Alien film? No, you're on your own, mate. So I was. So I had to go on my own. I know, but I actually really loved it, because there's no distractions with kids and people say stuff like that. But I must admit, I did mostly enjoy it. I think it's only the final part of it where it got a little bit slavish to pretty much everything. But the energy behind the story is great. But long story short, or long story longer, it pushed me to go back and watch the first three again, actually. And those first three, I mean, because they're all very, very different from each other, and they all kind of still work. I mean, Aliens, the Cameron film, was always my comfort film back in the day. It's a much easier watch than the really visceral, quite terrifying original Alien film. But I both of them, it's almost like comparing apples and pears in a way. You have the very best apple and the very best pear, and they're just great. And sorry, that's just me kind of wittering on there.
No, it's okay. That's very funny, because we were saying in the office how the end. So obviously we know what happens at the start of Alien 3, and that goes to hell in it. But at the end of Aliens, so my friend David said, it's a nice happy ending, and I said, well, is it? Because
not the start of Alien 3 though.
Not the start of Alien 3, but at the end of Aliens, Ripley and Newt get into their cryo tube and they go back to Earth. And I said, what sort of life are they going to have? Because the company made Ripley's life hell at the start of Aliens.
Definitely.
And now Ripley's going to be in this sort of dead-end job, whatever, with a child to support.
Although
I'd never thought of it that way.
this is a Titan Books thing, isn't it?
Oh, yes,
This is the book of Alien 3, which I picked up in Forbidden Planet. It's based on William Gibson's unproduced first draft of the screenplay. And I read this on holiday because you need a holiday read, right? So Aliens. And it's really interesting because obviously it's more of a continuation of Aliens than a retread of the original film. It doesn't, it's that whole colonial marines kind of thing, and it mostly follows what's his name? It's I can never remember if it's Hicks or Hudson. I still get confused after all these years, but it's Hicks. And but interestingly, they palm off Newt and Ripley quite quickly in this. So they're kind of treated, they recover, and then they're sent packing off to Earth. And, so this story follows Hicks on this space station that gets, overrun with aliens. But I think the idea was that there would be a part 2 of this, which would focus on Newt and Ripley. And obviously it was never going to be a happy story, but they would end up getting caught up in all the shenanigans that kind of begin in this thing with their company and their research departments, and I'd recommend this to anyone actually if you want an alternative to Alien 3, which I do love. I love the David Fincher movie, and as much as I hate the fact that he killed off Newt and and Hicks, I still love the fact that they did do it and just wipe the slate clean, because that film, especially the restored edition, which puts in so much more plot. I don't get this, right? The theatrical release of Alien 3 had all its plot taken out of it, so the film makes no bloody sense at all. You get the special edition, they shove the plot back in and put all these other things that Fincher originally had in the movie, which were replaced later on through edits and reshoots and what have you. And it actually makes brilliant sense. It's wonderfully dark, it's incredibly grim, but there's a really core plot to it, which is driven by Paul McGann's character, and he's hardly in the theatrical release, but in the restored version he plays a central role to making things happen, and now suddenly the film makes a lot more sense, is much more enjoyable, and is complete because of it. So it's like, why take all that stuff out again? Sorry, I'm ranting again, and I shouldn't do this, but it happens.
It's a thing. It's such a brutal film though, because you've got the two characters dying, and then you've got a child autopsy on top of that.
She's got to do that, and
it's the whole thing is completely, for what I think they put out at the time as a summer blockbuster.
It's the whole drugs aspect. There's a big druggy aspect. Charles Dance's character gets Ripley addicted. And it's not an easy watch, but it's almost like back to the original Alien film, which again is not an easy watch in a lot of ways. It's really grim, but
Paul McGann's great in it. Yeah, Paul McGann is his performance in it, I think, is terrific.
It's brilliant. Yeah, because they're all nutcases in there. It's a prison planet, isn't it? So they're all not nice people. They're not really sympathetic characters, and it's an amazing story. I think Alien 3 for what it does. But it tends to be quite. It tends to be derided by other fans out there. So anyway, we are withering again, aren't we? What would be your desert island takes then? If you marooned on a desert island, what movies, books, comics, etc., what would you take with you, do you think?
Oh, it's easy. So comics would be the Doctor Who comics, the 1980s stuff, really. Like Junkyard Demon and all that stuff. All the stuff with like when Frobisher's a shapeshifter and he turns into a hamburger and someone takes a bite out of it. All that. It's so wild and wacky and funny, and there's
madness.
There's a weird businessman or something that's having an affair with an alien woman in it. It's a really throwaway bit, and he's listening in. It's just disguised as a telephone. It's like, I love it. It's just so odd, so odd. So that would be my comic. TV show obviously is going to be, can I have the entirety of Doctor Who, including the missing episodes and the definitely Unearthly Child.
Maybe your teacher, your old teacher, has probably got Web of Fear episode 3 taped somewhere. You know, imagine that.
He was really into. He had every episode. Well, not every, but he had this whole. I remember having this list of the episodes that he had, but he also was really into the TV show Dallas.
Oh yeah.
And he had all those on tape as well, which are Leslie lost. Yeah, so I would have the Doctor Who. So if I go to my desert island though, can I have? Is it because it's purely hypothetical? I can have missing episodes as well, but I just can't. So I can
yes,
the space pirates.
You could.
But no one else can.
You could also be streamed new episodes as they appear.
You're very generous, Jeff.
Yeah. This is really generous,
isn't it? You know, the whole idea is it's limited options. That's the whole point.
Wow. Okay. All right then. So
space pirates.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what. Then. Right. It's either the whole of Doctor Who as it exists, right, or the space pirates, but only you would have the space pirates. Nobody else would have it. Could you live with yourself on your desert island with that?
It's just one story.
So hang on, no, wait, hang on. Sorry, I'm just thinking. You're saying the entirety of all the space pirates?
Yeah.
Oh, I want the entirety of Doctor Who. The space pirates is no.
So not fine. The space pirates. Then.
That's fine.
You ditch it. If you had the chance to own the space pirates and nobody else could see it apart from you, you wouldn't care.
Yeah, because the choice is like I could have all of Doctor Who, all the space. I don't mind missing out on the space pirates.
There you go.
If you got that and you watched it and then you were like, oh,
this is shit.
Okay. You're stuck with it.
Which I suspect might be the case.
Yeah, it might be.
It's not the one. It would. Yeah, it might be fantastic. Oh, who knows? Who knows?
Who knows? Exactly.
So yeah, films probably.
You can have 3. Have 3 films. We'll let you have 3.
Can I have Time Bandits?
Oh yes.
Great film.
Yeah.
Time Bandits. Jaws.
Yeah.
Original Jaws.
Because you need a boat.
Because that would definitely keep me from trying to swim away from that. And let's go for.
Are you not going to put Alien in?
No. Well, I feel that'd be obvious. Can I go for Disney's The Black Hole?
Oh yeah, yeah. Where they spend about 40 minutes having dinner. Explaining the plot.
I've got a soft spot for that film.
I do like it actually.
But it's not a film that I'm going to defend. It's rubbish. But I don't know why. I've just got a bit of it because it would be a reminder of these things can be made where they don't have a clue what they're doing and they're aiming at kids and they're just and it's like, here's a kids film with cute robots and we're going to have Anthony Perkins torn apart by a giant robot and
a bizarre metaphysical ending that just
we're going to go full 2001 at the end and so that Disney's The Black Hole. I guarantee no one else will ever say that.
Do you know what I literally just in here actually, since you mentioned it, I've got an old pen paperback of The Black Hole. Look at that. This is from because it's quite old actually. This is from, when was this published? Oh, I believe it is actually 1979. Yeah,
79. So I've just finished reading. Alan Dean Foster has put
there's a name. Yeah,
he's put out a book of his experiences writing fiction for all of these films. It's really interesting. So for the Alien novelization, he was given the book to write, and he said, "You've got 6 weeks to write it." And he said, "Can I have some reference photos? Can you tell me what the creature?" And they wouldn't tell him what the creature looks like. So the Alien novelization never describes the creature. It's
interesting.
Blank.
Yeah. So, I remember Alan Dean Foster's name was on it pretty much everything back in the day. All the spin-off tie-in movie novels, wasn't it? You know, Star Wars.
I actually met him at a Star Wars convention. Did a panel with him. The loveliest man. Just I was clutching a, but it was the only time I ever really got slightly tongue-tied. And he said, "Oh, would you like me to sign that?" I was like, "Yes,
yes, please sign it." Oh wow.
So
that's incredible.
Yeah, absolute hero.
Yeah, I also love those, and it's good actually that that we still get publishers like Titan, sort of printing these things up and finding their audience, because I get the feeling that without the likes of you guys really championing these things, a lot of the titles would disappear. I mean, I know they're sometimes quite hard to find, but obviously there's the online outlet, which is great, and there's Forbidden Planet, and I must admit, every time I walk in there, I love it. There's one in Bristol, but bizarrely I tend to go to the London one, more often than not. And I walk down there, my daughter loves it, my youngest. If we're both there, we will both go to Forbidden Planet and just get lost in it all. It's amazing.
Yeah, actually, true story. This is going back to about 2010, 2011. I was in there with my friend Mark, because what we do is we work at Titan, then we would go and go to Forbidden Planet and then go for a hamburger with our comics. And we were in there. We were in there, and Peter Capaldi was in there.
No,
just before he'd been cast as the Doctor.
Oh, right.
But he was looking at the character options action figure, and he was just looking at them. And I said, "Mark, it's Peter Capaldi." We said, "Should we go and say something to him, say hi?" And the trouble is, at the time, he was known for the thick of it. So I thought, if I go over there and he's in a bad mood, he's going to let me go. And so we didn't, and I regret that ever since, because I'd love to think he was thinking one day I might be a little plastic figure. And by all accounts, he's an absolutely lovely guy as well. So,
he'd have treated you well, I'm sure he would.
I'm sure, but just at the time, it was in Malcolm Tucker mode, so it's a little bit scary.
Oh dear, that is brilliant stories.
Well,
right, should we wrap it up there?
Yes,
do you think?
That's all my questions done. What I feel like, as is often the case with our guests, we could talk, all day.
We could,
and then some, but we've probably all got work to do. So, Jonathan, thank you very much for joining us. And
Definitely.
It's quite amazing what can come about through Twitter and stuff like that. It's not the first time we've had a guest on, through tweets and stuff like that. So thank you. And I can't wait to read the next 15th Doctor issue, and look forward to more next year, hopefully, as well.
Definitely.
Oh, bless you. Thank you very much. And I listen to your show while I'm working on Doctor Who. Really lovely to listen to while I'm sort of, I have to be a bit careful. I'm one of those people, if I'm typing something, I tend to type what I'm listening to. If you guys turn up in one of the stories, you could be the new Susan Twist,
Yes, there you go. Yeah. Gosh, can you imagine that? That'd be very scary, wouldn't it? Nobody needs that, that's for sure. Jonathan, honestly, it's been an absolute pleasure talking to you, mate. We have got to have you back on again. You have to join us for one of our commentary episodes, or every time you've got something new coming up, you're more than welcome to jump on. We'd love to have you back.
Always happy to talk Who.
Let's do that when the 15 series comes back again. Come on, and we'll do a commentary on an episode that you particularly like, and we can chat about that and the comics and other stuff.
Yes,
that'd be really
there you
good.
go. That'll do. Brilliant.
All right,
a lot of fun. Jonathan
everyone.
Wilkins, editor of Titan Comics. Thank you for
very
joining us,
much.
Jonathan. Thank you for listening, everybody. We shall see you again on our very next episode of Who Corner to Corner. This is the voice. You see that? No? Okay. I won't do that again.